I really, again, just want to hit home on how much I absolutely love this event. I'm so grateful that Dave spends all year long and has just an enormous team and an amount of amazing people around him that can put this event together every year. It is incredible. I'm going to be there every year.
Are you struggling with low energy, weight gain, hormonal imbalances, or heavy metal and mold toxicity? Do you want to learn more about anti-aging tips and creating more longevity in your life? Well, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jen Heller, a wellness educator, infrared sauna expert, and home health consultant. In this podcast, Homes That Heal, I will teach you how to transform your home into a health and wellness sanctuary. Your health is your wealth, and I believe that your home should be your sanctuary space, loaded with the tools you need to thrive in your life, not just survive. If you want to feel fantastic and transform your life and home, grab a pen, let's dive in and create a home that heals.
Hey friends, Jen here. Welcome back to Homes That Heal. So this week we are doing part 2 of the Dave Asprey Biohacking Conference. I said last week we decided to split up the speakers and the vendors. I originally recorded it as one whole show, but it got pretty long. I'm not gonna lie. By the time I whipped through all my notes and all the things I wanted to say and all my soapboxes that I jumped out on for a bit, I decided that it was probably good to break this up into 2 so that you can A, absorb it all in, and B, just make it a little bit more digestible, if you will. So this week we are going through, I kind of walked through all the different speakers, some of the topics, and just give you the cliff notes, what they talked about, shared any books or podcasts or information that they delivered to us. Again, all the show notes, as you know, we'll have the links over to their socials and places where you can find their information. Also, the Jen Recommends page is on the jenhellerlifestyle.com site. Obviously, that is loaded with a lot of this information as well. Any of the products and information like the brain tap machine, things like that. That's all going to be on the website. But if you're not sure about anything, always feel free to send me a note, but everything should be loaded in the notes. And I really just want to hit home again, as you'll hear in today's episode. I talk fast, I go through a lot. It was just so loaded and jam-packed, and I'm just really excited to put it all into one show for you so that you can take it in as well. But anybody who's interested in attending this event, I highly recommend it. And if you do, let me know. I'd love to connect and see you there, but just can't emphasize enough how much I really enjoy being able to attend and participate in these types of events. The fact that they're even available to us is just amazing. It's one of my favorite things to do in my job. I call it a job, but I don't really see it as a job. But it's one of my more favorite things to do is handpick some of these events, go experience, listen to speakers, learn, try new things, and then bring it back to you so that you know this stuff is available. So enjoy the show this week, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks. So before I get into the speakers, I have a couple of things that I just want to mention. Dave Asprey is next level on everything he does. He's the father of biohacking. He does everything at the nth degree. Everything is super high vibe and high quality. The food at this event is fantastic. It's like no other. They host only at hotels that allow them to bring in their own food so they can bring in organic, grass-fed. The desserts aren't loaded with sugar. They're actually sugar-free. They were just unbelievable. The food was fantastic. Everything that was served was just phenomenal. So I just want to mention that. Endless flowing of danger coffee mixed up bulletproof style, like way to talk to my heart, way to get right to my soul. I love bulletproof coffee. In fact, I've got a cup of it sitting on my desk right now. I've been drinking it for years, and this was free flowing at this event. That to me is like the icing on the freaking cake. I was in total heaven, super grateful for what I do and the ability to go to these shows. But when I can drink bulletproof coffee all day, I shouldn't say all day. I think it was until 2 or 3 o'clock. I think they cut it off mid-afternoon, but Dave has changed the game of the conference experience, and I'm so grateful to be able to be in attendance. So let's dive into the speakers. And again, this is also not going to be in any particular order. I wish I could show you the chicken scratch notes that I have here. Just writing. Like I said, I did most of this on the airplane. But I'm going to start off with one of the main reasons why I went to this. I always look at the speakers to see if it aligns. And there have been a couple years where I didn't go because maybe the speakers I wasn't that enthusiastic about, or maybe it didn't fit on my schedule. But This year, it was like I was moving mountains because Joe Dispenza was there. And I've never seen Joe speak in person. I've always just been on Zooms or different online courses. Now, he's on my bucket list, of course, to get to one of his 7-day events, but he was one of the keynotes there. He is obviously one of the all-time greats. He delivered an epic conversation on the power of our mind and meditation, which is his expertise and wheelhouse. Seeing him speak, as I said, has been on my list for years. The room was jammed. I mean, 4,500 people in attendance at this event. I do believe the room was big enough and enough chairs to accommodate everybody, but there were people standing and sitting on the floors all over the place. Like, I'm pretty sure Wonderland Hall was crickets, like a ghost town, while Joe was speaking because the energy was electric and palpable. The room was totally full. I can't even really describe everything that he spoke about. I think he talked for 90 minutes and it was just electric and intriguing. And the information that he dropped on how the body and the mind, he had a lot of statistics. He was sharing a lot of statistics in and around the research that they're doing on cancer, on disease, on everything, on sleep, on children. It's just incredible what the mind can do when it's tapped into a specific state of being, as well as using it as a way to heal yourself, to really tune in and get heart centered and really tap into speaking to yourself. He had slide after slide after slide of different data about what they're finding. And it's not just opinion, this is science. He has researchers, doctors, labs working on this, and the data doesn't lie. And so, if you're interested at all in digging into that further, I encourage you to look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, potentially attend one of his experiential retreats. I have it on my list. I really want to go to the Marco Island one just because it's at the beach and I really want to experience it at the beach. But he hosts them all over the world, actually. There are quite a few here in the US, but I know he has some outside the country as well. So if you don't know Joe Dispenza, check him out. He is one of my favorites and just fabulous. A new person that I was introduced to, James Nestor. And James talked about the importance of our breathing. This was a really powerful conversation and definitely one of my most memorable, actually. I learned a ton. Like, I know the concept of breathing is like, well, we all know how to breathe. No, we actually don't. We don't know how to breathe properly because we're living in fight or flight. We're holding our breath a ton. We're tense. You probably just all of a sudden realize that your shoulders are up and you maybe let them down. The amount of information that he shared about how we're going about our lives and holding our breath too much, it was just unbelievable. So many things to mention, how our face, how our bone structure, how everything changes when we strengthen through our breath. So, one of the things that I think was one of the most impactful is he showed some slides like why children are having so many issues sleeping. Children, like I don't even have kids. And I was like elevating off my chair listening to this. The breathing and lung issues and the vast difference between children who were breastfed versus the ones who were not, and the negative impact bottle feeding has had on child development over the years was astounding. And the reason why that's important is because when you're breastfeeding, the child is strengthening those muscles in the face. And he showed these slides and these pictures of the evolution of how our facial structures have changed as humans have evolved over the last 100 years, just 100 years. And it was like, whoa, it went from wide, strong jawlines to thin, more narrow faces. And that's why the teeth in our mouth, like more and more kids are needing braces versus say 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago when it was not that common. So the whole conversation was in around that. Honestly, James just completely blew my mind. I highly, highly recommend everyone check him out. He's on Instagram. He's all over the place. On numerous occasions, the entire room gasped as he shared these staggering statistics. Again, particularly in and around children. So if you have a child who is struggling with sleep, anxiety, bedwetting, ADHD, etc., consider looking him up and listening and considering what he has to say. I believe he has a book too. I think it's called Breathe. It was the most unexpected information of like blow my mind. It was just really, really enjoyable. And I really just couldn't believe all the statistics and what he was sharing and saying. And he also did walk us through some breath work and like how to breathe. And yeah, everybody is tense. Our shoulders are up, like all these different things. When he showed us how to relax and breathe properly, it was like, it was just a breath of fresh air, pun intended. All right, moving on. Christian Drapo from STEM Regen. Obviously, you all know my story with the stroke and the paralysis. I've been taking Stemergen for a few years, completely helped my transformation and my healing. But what Christian also shared about was stem cells, not new, right? It's been around forever. Christian's been speaking on this for 30 years. He's considered one of the most world renowned experts, actually. Just a humble heart man, super nice, but just extremely intelligent when it comes to how the body works in delivering a stem cell that actually works. This is a capsule, this is not injections, but he was sharing a ton of information as it relates to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, just a ton of different long-term disease type illnesses that can take a toll. But the research that he was sharing, he's written a ton of research papers and he has articles on their website. So please feel free to check out their site. Much of this information is there. Also about limes, the powerful ingredients and the medical research that this company has done is just next level. And I really encourage people to check it out. And if you're not familiar with stem cells, basically, stem cells constitute the body's natural healing and repair system to support its regenerative potential. I remember when I met them at Dave's event a few years back, I took a picture of the product. I did some testing on my body. I had met with 6 different stem cell companies that were there, and theirs by far tested the best on my body as far as quality and impact. And within 2 weeks of taking it, I could start to feel more function and mobility in my left fingers where I struggle the most. And as I mentioned, I pair this with my brain tap when I do hit it with the oxygen and all these things. So it's a bit more elevated healing experience. But in general, I highly recommend people check them out if any of the things I mentioned is something that you're struggling with. Okay, next speaker, probably my second favorite next to Joe Dispenza, Hal Elrod. I'm sure you probably have heard of him. For those of you that haven't, he is the founder of the Miracle Morning. His story of cancer, bankruptcy, hitting rock bottom twice in his life, like literally should have died twice, like unbelievable. Hal is just, I don't even hardly have words to describe him. If you haven't read the book Miracle Morning, please do so. It'll change your life. It's, I believe, on my website in my top 25 favorites. I've read it like 3 times actually, and I have notes on it. I have incorporated the savers into my routine. So his faith and trust in the process is not just his opinion. This is tried and true. And he has a documentary out on this as well. He shared a clip of it. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. I've seen it. It's just unbelievable. Like I said, his story is just remarkable. But he created this morning routine. The percentage that he was given a cancer diagnosis. He's got a wife and 2 small children. They gave him like a 5 to 10% chance of living. I think it was very minimal. They basically said, you have a couple of months to live. Go home and enjoy your family. And he decided to pray, use his mind, and he created a morning routine that put him in a state of being every single day to live life with gratitude and to step into his day in a specific mindset. Like he wasn't going to allow this diagnosis to wield his outcome. When he stepped on stage, he was one of the morning speakers, of course. I'm sure that was definitely intentional, but his energy was just unbelievable. Like as soon as he came out, it was amazing. You could feel his vibrancy, you could feel his passion, and his purpose behind creating a morning routine is, he just feels it's the most important part of the day. And if you desire to be productive, fulfilling, and achieve success, you have to kick your day off with a routine. So he created what he calls savers. It's SAVERS, and it's the foundation. And basically, it's just simple ancient wisdom practices to start your day off. The S stands for silence, A is affirmations, V is visualization, E for exercise, R for reading, and S for scribing. And so basically, what he's suggesting is to start your day off with an amount of time, whether it be 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in each of those realms. But if you do that consistently and then move into your day, I promise you it'll change your life. I think I incorporated savers maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I want to say it was 2 years ago. Now, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not claiming to be perfect. This was actually one of my takeaways when I left was like, I need to get back into my savers. I would say that I'm about 80 to 90%. Some days I skip the walk or I'll skip my visualization or I'll get in my office too soon or get a phone call or something. But if you get real clear and do this every day, like it does make an impact. I can guarantee you that. And I can guarantee it because I've lived it and it's definitely changed my life. My favorite quote from Hal: win your morning, win your life. So if you're not familiar with Hal Elrod or the Miracle Morning, please check it out. It is very impactful. Okay, so moving on, Vani Hari, otherwise known as the Food Babe. Vani is another one that I've known for 15 years. She was also a speaker at that Costa Mesa event years ago that I was at when I met Dave in the first place. And she was speaking on her story there. And so I've been following her and part of the Food Babe Army for over 15 years. So if you don't know Vani, she is a food activist and she walked out and just lit up the room. She's a New York Times bestseller. She's all over the internet right now because she is playing a massive role and is instrumental in the Maha movement. She has been relentless and fearless in the charge in our food, particularly dyes and chemicals and all this garbage ingredients that is in our food system. She has been pounding on the doors of these companies for years, and it's finally making a shift. Finally, the needle is moving on this. So when she came out, the freaking house lit up because everybody is super grateful for Bonnie. Millions and millions and millions of people follow her and support her. And like I said, the Food Babe Army. So definitely check her out. She's just a great person. And she's probably one of the most courageous women I know. In fact, I don't know anyone probably more fearless and passionate and devoted than her in this food movement. And I'm just, like I said, I'm grateful to be a part of this very important revolution. I've said for years that my goal was to be alive when we shifted the food in our country. And I'm not suggesting that I want a bunch of food companies to just close their doors and shrivel up. But one thing I know for sure is you can't really constitute synthetic materials and carcinogens and oils and things that are not natural to the body as food. Our food is our fuel. As gasoline goes in the car, food goes into our bodies. Food is our fuel. It is so vitally important for it to be not just quality, like real alive food that comes from the earth, that's grown in the ground, that's raised cattle. It doesn't need a bunch of synthetics and all of these convenient foods that have been made to sit on shelves for years or however long. The body just can't thrive on that. It's just not designed to live on that. And so oftentimes when people call me and they want to buy a sauna or they're looking at some of these modalities, they're like, I'm overweight and I've got high blood pressure and I've got all this inflammation and my body just feels terrible and I'm tired and I'm achy and I'm lethargic and I'm fatigued. And it's like, okay, well, what's on the end of your fork? Let's talk about your food because yes, I have a tool that can help you. However, if you're not putting in good, you can't expect to feel good. Like that's just the bottom line. And so it's very basic and very simple. And I don't expect people to live 100% on the rails every day, all day. However, if our country had quality food more accessible everywhere we went, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for us all to stay on track. So again, Vani has just been a powerhouse advocate for all of us for so many years. And I'm just really grateful to not only see her at this event, but just be inspired by her to continue to be a part of this movement. Also, for all you moms out there, she is fiercely protective, in particular about the foods that kids are consuming. So if you're looking to clean up your kiddos' snacks, check out her socials. She has a ton of great alternatives and great options that are convenient and easy. She also has her own company, Truvani, which she created, I think, I don't know, the last 5 or 10 years. Minimal ingredients, super easy to get your protein, like just a ton of great options. So again, check out Vani's socials and be inspired to clean out your pantries and throw some stuff away. Get rid of the things that have been sitting there for weeks, months, years, whatever. And let's just get back to basics as it relates to our food. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. I could do a whole show on that. Okay, so Dr. Alberto Veloto, so he dug deep into the spirituality components of healing and how the health of our brain is so critical. If you haven't read his book, Grow a New Brain, add it to your list. I picked it up while I was there. I've got 3 books I'm reading right now. And as soon as I'm done with 1 or 2, I'm going to be starting to Grow a New Brain. So I can't speak to it yet, but a ton of people there that I knew and was speaking to had already read it and they just said that it's phenomenal. So highly recommend that. So you guys, this was literally just like day one. All these different experiences, all these different speakers. It was like mind blowing. I was completely elevated in a totally different level of consciousness just after day one. It was like a total checkout of everyday reality. And I just locked into a completely different dimension. And you can imagine after all of these speakers, all of these high vibe people, all of this amazing energy, day one felt like 3 days. It was just incredible. Like I said, I think that in the future, I'm going to need to plan out my days a little bit differently so that I can pace this out a little bit different because there's definitely a ton to see. Okay, so moving on to speakers, Dame brought out Jirka Raisavi, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. He is the founder of the Gaia Network. If you don't know Gaia, check it out. It's just tons of documentaries, just amazing information. I'm obsessed with it. Everything from spiritual to Akashic readings to ancient wisdom to ancient information to UFOs, you name it, it's on the Gaia Network. I could just watch that all day, quite frankly. So Dave did what's called a fireside chat. They just had chairs up on the stage, just having more of a candid conversation versus him just being a speaker. And it was a little bit different setting. And it was perfect because he truly is one of the most enlightened beings I think I've ever had the pleasure to be around. That's probably the best way I can describe it. Like just his being was so bright and so incredibly palpable. It was an interesting experience. So he's not been on camera or done an interview since before the internet. So this was his first public appearance since the 90s, which out of the gate was just incredible to me. I was like, what? Well, first of all, I'm like, well, where's he been? Like, how does he create all these things? Yet, so he stays behind the scenes. He's just so humble. And you can tell he's just a super humble guy. His aura, his energy was electric yet soft. It's really hard to describe, you guys. It was just an incredible experience. Everybody was really enamored. So it was like you could hear a pin drop in this room. He spoke a lot about science, the evolution of consciousness, and where we're going, plus some wild, and I mean wild information about new technology for healing, which completely blew my mind. I'm not even going to get into all of it today because there's not enough time for me to describe it. But this guy just embodied so much light and love and wisdom. And I'm just super grateful for the opportunity to be in the room to hear him speak and dig further into his company and what he's rolling out. The next speaker I want to talk about is Roland Crady from HeartMath. He's amazing, by the way. Like, he is so intelligent. He brought a ton of interesting information about HRV and the importance of nurturing our heart health. I really enjoyed this conversation very much because it was a valuable reminder to stay proactive and be our own wellness advocate. He was so specific and very passionate about teaching us to protect our heart and protect ourselves and nurture our heart and nurture our heart health and not take it for granted. They have a number of different devices and things that they offer, but also I believe you can work with them to get some baseline testing. So if you're curious where your heart health is, you can jump over to their site and I think you can actually get some baseline testing from them and figure out if there's anything that you need to do. But I've really worked a ton over the years on my heart chakra and just spending more time and more love and gratitude and just focusing in on opening my heart. And so, again, I really appreciated this conversation to continue to work on that chakra, but also just being our own wellness advocate. So that was the overarching message for Rollin. Next speaker, it was Dr. Patrick Porter. He is the founder of BrainTap. He's always one of my faves. Not only is he extremely knowledgeable and compassionate, but the BrainTap, as you know, has been instrumental in my healing. I've had one for years. It's helped improve my motor function. I use it for gratitude, visualization, manifestation. It's quite literally rewired my brain and supported a healthier mindset. I did an interview with them actually while I was there. Plus, I had the opportunity to chat with Dr. Porter kind of offside for a bit. I'm excited to share and announce that he will also be on my show very soon. So I look forward to him joining me on the show here in the coming months. Dr. Jerry Tennant, amazing, wise, and I would say he's considered an old school doctor. I don't know his age. I think he's 70s or 80s, but just so cool. Dave had him on more of a fireside chat conversation, and he was talking about different ways in which you can heal the body using a couple of their laser devices. Shortly after he spoke, I hustled buns up 5 floors to where his booth was because I wanted to check out one of the specific devices that they had as it relates to healing stroke or healing brain damage. And lo and behold, wasn't Dr. Tennant standing there off to the side a bit? And so I walked right up to him and introduced myself and said, "Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your fantastic information and talk today. Do you mind if I asked you a couple questions?" And he said, "Sure." Long story short, we ended up talking for 15, 20 minutes. He, of course, had one of those devices right in his pocket. He pulled it right out. I told him about my story. He did some testing. He went right to the spot on my brain, which I already know where it is. The majority of the brain damage and the concussion, he went right to the specific spot. He put this laser right on my head. Of course, he asked my permission. I said yes. And he set it on there for a couple of minutes while we did some gratitude and prayer and just walked through this beautiful energy release. You guys, I didn't feel anything overwhelmingly different right then and there. I could feel something happening. I could feel something in the body happening. I don't know how to describe it or put it into words. It's almost like an illuminating experience. If I could try to describe it, it's almost like somebody put a flashlight on your body and you're like shining it into the body and it's like lighting up a bit, like it's something's turning on, so to speak. That's what I could feel. Like that's what it felt like. Something was turning on. And then we chatted a little bit more. We talked about some childhood stuff and the trauma in the brain, like what happened. And I thanked him and he said, "Stay in touch." And I said I would. And the next day I got up and I couldn't turn my head to the right side. Like it was like locked. I literally got out of bed and I was freaking out actually. I was like, what the heck happened? That was the only thing I could think of that would potentially impact that. And so something was like locked up. So I did some breath work, I did some meditation, and I did a little bit of stretching on it. And it seemed to subside a little bit. And then I hightailed over to the event first thing and went over and saw my friend Brian at Intelligent Threads because he's a genius healer of the body. And I told him what was happening. He shared a couple of quick stretches and movements for me to unlock it. And boom, it was gone. It just totally released. And I felt like a full range of motion rush come through my body. So it felt like something unlocked. That's probably the best way I can describe it, is that it felt like if you were pouring water in something and it had all these different vein lines, like think of ley lines of your veins, and now all of a sudden the blood flow is open, like something opened up. So I don't know exactly what happened that day. All I know is that my range of motion has been better and something in my elbow has changed. Something shifted on my left hand and my left arm. And it was because of that 15, 20 minutes that Dr. Tennant spent with me. And I'm so incredibly grateful. And that too is on my short list to dig into. And I have some downtime to dig a little bit further in if that's a device that I need in my home or if that's something that was like a one and done type thing. I'm not sure yet. But I know for sure many others that I spoke with use Tennant products, know Dr. Tennant, and he's been around forever. He's old school and just a very wise individual. So check out Tennant products. It was life changing for me. Moving on, you probably know Daymond from the Shark Tank. Humbly spoke about his issue with alcoholism. And again, he was a fireside chat on stage. I really enjoyed his conversation. What I loved about it was his wife was in the crowd and he shouted out and gave her just a ton of gratitude for her standing by him and just really loving him through the process of his journey, which I just think is great because family and spouses and people that help others are instrumental in them knowing unconditional love and knowing that there's a purpose for setting down some of these addictions. So I really appreciated that. And as many of you know, Mark struggled with alcoholism for over 20 years. He's now been sober over 6 years. I'm so grateful for our experience and for his sobriety or our sobriety. I don't drink alcohol either, but it was just a really interesting, humbling conversation. And I really appreciated his transparency about it. And it was just a good conversation how alcohol yeah, it's legal, but it's quite the drug. It's quite the addiction for some, and it's a very powerful dark energy that can destroy lives. Like it damn near destroyed my marriage and my relationship with Mark. It almost did. And so when people speak about it, I'm very attuned to it and can relate to a lot of what he said. I know a few times while he was speaking, I got a bit emotional because people walk similar paths and things hit the heart the same way. But I think it's interesting because a lot of people, like I was chatting with the ladies around me too, it's drinking is becoming not as interesting as it used to be. A lot of people are setting it down. A lot of people are letting it go. A lot of people are doing it less. A lot of people are letting go of friends and family members that are overindulging and just become a low vibe energy or somebody that you don't want to hang around with. I find it interesting that so many people are rising up and saying, you know what, I had fun with that, but it's time to set it down. That's where I'm at with it, is I'm just not interested in drinking anymore. I'm not interested in the hangover. I'm not interested in the sugar intake. I'm not interested in the feeling of it. Whenever Mark and I would have an argument or something was going wrong, or if there was strain in the relationship, alcohol was always center point. It was always the common denominator. Again, it was just a really great conversation, and so many people were, like, nodding their head like, "Yeah, alcohol is just not a thing." And people weren't drinking at this event either, by the way. It was a very legitimately sobering conversation and sobering reality. That's where we're moving, right? When I go back to this whole consciousness, like, we're moving in a direction where you actually wanna be alive, awake, and alert, and not in a brain fog, fatigue, or drunken stupor. People actually want to feel their lives and live their lives and be awake and aware. And so I love that. And again, you could just feel the energy in the room in and around that. Okay. So that was Daymond. I appreciated meeting him. I've actually watched him on Shark Tank for many years. So it was fun to actually see him in person. So shout out to Daymond. And then last and certainly not least is Ryan Holiday. Ryan is amazing on a lot of different levels. I think my biggest takeaway from him is I picked up his book, Ego is the Enemy. That's one of the 3 books I'm reading right now. I'm about halfway through it, and I can tell you the very first chapter, actually, I don't even think I got into chapter 1. It was just like the forewords or the beginnings of the book. It was like mind-blowing. Yeah, this is definitely some work that I need to be doing or that I want to be doing right now. Just like looking humbly at the ego and what the ego wants versus what does my soul want? What is the measure of success? How you perceive yourself, like what you think you need to do, how you need to show up in life. I'm making some changes and shifts in the business this year, as I'm always, because we're always evolving, but just moving into a more lifestyle. It's all about living life in a high vibe way. What does success mean? Well, success means that I have carved out my day in a way in which feels good to me, that I can live my best life and I can be my best self. That looks different for everybody. My home and my goals are different than everybody listening to me right now. So, worrying about what other people think or thinking you need to show up in a certain way, that is old thinking. The most successful people now, and I think this is part of what Ryan was trying to drive home too, is that you have to be willing and have the courage to live out your purpose and to be fully okay with not caring what other people see, think, or feel or measure your success. Like your ego can't override what feels good to you. And this is one of these areas too where I feel like sometimes I have a hard time articulating what I want to share, what I want to say. But this was also one of the most impactful takeaways that I had there, as well as some of the work that I want to do on myself. And it's not that I think I have a big ego. We all have egos. It's that I want to tap into making sure that I'm choosing and making decisions based on what's going to be best aligned for me, staying in my alignment, and not what's going to look successful on the outside to other people, if that makes sense. So, success for me is you listening to this show. Success for me is that it impacts your life and you do something positive for your health and well being. Success for me is waking up every day with a burning desire in my soul to connect people with their highest self and other wellness healers that we can all help each other. So it's like we all rise together. So, how can I do that in the most impactful way? Stay true to myself, stay authentic to myself, but also not completely drain my own energy, not completely go into burnout. And so that's what a lot of healers and a lot of entrepreneurs and successful people end up doing is you burn out. Like you get so driven to reach goals that you forget that number one goal should be to take care of ourselves. And so that's really the real work that I'm always doing, but that's really the real work that I want to continue to do. And where I'm at right now is how can I continue to grow, continue to elevate, take the show to the next level, take the business to the next level? How can I impact more people, but not have a negative impact on my life, if that makes sense? So I think I'm going to end there because that sounds and feels really good to me. I know I talked fast today. I know I whipped through a lot of things, but I really, again, just want to hit home on how much I absolutely love this event. I'm so grateful that Dave spends all year long and has just an enormous team and an amount of amazing people around him that can put this event together every year. It is incredible. If you're intrigued or interested, send me a note. I'm going to be there every year. So if you're planning on going, let's connect. But if nothing else and it's not on your radar to go, check out all of the show notes, check out all of these people on their socials, get their books, listen to their podcasts, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Jump over to the jenhellerlifestyle.com website. Check out the Jen Recommends. Many of these people are there as well. A lot of my favorites and the people that I've worked with, there's discount codes and things that you could potentially save some money if you're going to purchase some of these products. But do yourself a favor and dig into some of this, because this is what's changing the world. This is what's changing our health. This is what's evolving us as humans. This is what's evolving our consciousness and our well-being. And everybody is just connected with each other, and we're going to live this beautiful life together. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you tuning in. I'm grateful to be able to do this work every week, every day. You are the reason why I wake up every day and do this. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you next week. Okay, friends and fellow wellness warriors, thanks for tuning in today. If this show was helpful and inspired you, please head over to Apple or Spotify to rate, review, subscribe, and follow us, as well as share it with your friends and family. It's a fantastic way to grow the show, expand my reach, and teach others how to create a vibrant life they love. If you're ready to invest in your health and purchase a Clear Light sauna, hop on over to jenhellerlifestyle.com and send me a note. Thanks again for tuning in. I love you. I'm grateful for you, and I thank you so much for your support. You are the reason I do this work. You are the reason I do this show. And you are the reason I get up every single day with a burning desire in my soul. Cheers to your health and happiness, my friends. We'll see you next week. This podcast is for general information purposes only and is not intended to be substituted for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you think you have a medical condition, consult your licensed physician.